Okay, now we're on. So I have Sherry Clemens with me. Welcome to the show, All That Jazz podcast, because that's what it's called now.
I like that.
So Sherry is a you do Feng Shui, and you're also a psychic. Is that correct?
That's what they call me. Yeah.
Okay. So I read the article about you, and the guy was very skeptical, and then I think he became increasingly more freaked out the longer the article went, you know. And I'm surprised he's still a skeptic, as you say. He's still very much, in that in the materialistic kind of viewpoint.
Well, and his wife became very intuitive and went on her spiritual path. And it's some people, it's just they're so left brain, they just can't go that way. And a lot of men, more men than women, will completely discount that.
Right. So, okay, for our audience that doesn't know, can you give us an example of maybe with him or something else that people would be like freaked out, but then for you, it would be like completely normal, like stuff you pick up about people and things like that.
Um, Gosh, that's the never-ending story. I think the biggest issue, which you and I touched on previously, it's the question of ETs and their presence around us. And I certainly, before my awakening many years ago, didn't. I actually realized that that was part of my knowledge and my history, even before my spiritual awakening, which is very unusual. Yeah.
Okay, so what was your I read in the article about your spiritual awakening. So you had a period where you were depressed, and how did that come about?
I was going through a lot of personal challenges,
Mm-hmm.
which is very common during a time of pre-awakening. And there was every reason for me to be depressed and thinking I was going crazy. And that's going crazy seems to be one of the symptoms of a spiritual awakening. We don't know what's going on.
Right.
And I did. And I was in West Texas at the time, which in this has been over 30 years ago, and they certainly in the Bible Belt didn't understand or have a preconceived idea of metaphysics or anything else. Um, and my therapist suggested I go through electroshock.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How long were you
So
depressed for? To set
nobody's
the context.
awakening. I'm sorry.
How long were you depressed for, to set the context? Like, to was it more than a month? More than six
Oh
months?
yeah. Oh yeah. And I had gone in and out because of family issues, my upbringing,
Mm,
that um, were religiously very narrow-minded, as well as very difficult, and without going into all of that. So it'd been kind of rocky for a long time anyway, but I'd been going through financial issues, which are very common during an awakening. This was back in 1987. I happened to be put into the hospital to undergo these treatments during the harmonic convergence.
oh wow. Yeah, I've heard about that. That the energy of the mankind, basically, that it raised during the 86 or 87, whatever it was, the harmonic
87,
convergence.
I
Yeah.
was 16 and 17. And I, of course, had no one to tell me about all of this at that time. And that's when and it went from just depression to really thinking I was going crazy. Well, part of it was the doctors had me on medications that I should never have been put on, which
Right.
made,
Right.
yeah.
Y-
And there are articles now, Matt, out on the internet that are excellent. That this is, if we had been in an indigenous, or if I had been in an indigenous culture,
Mm-hmm.
they would have known that I was beginning to go into shamanhood or priestesshood or whatever, and that I was just awakening, my intuitive gifts and things like this. But in our culture here in the United States, that isn't the case. They just think you're going bat crazy and stick you in the hospital or drug you up.
Yeah, I would say the whole Western world is like that. There's no, because like I read the book. I don't know if you know Lisa Nella. He was a doctor, MD, and he wrote a book called Kundalini Psychosis or Transcendence, and it was about how I don't know if you know about Kundalini, but his theory was that some people are going through an actual spiritual experience, other people are psychotic, and he was treating people that had that Kundalini awakening in a way.
There's many ways of going through it,
Mm-hmm.
but um, especially given our pharmaceutical dominance in planetary wide now, they just want to make it go away. This started really happening with obviously with the indigo children and things like that. That they came in with a consciousness much higher, and the doctors and the therapists and things and the teachers couldn't control them. So
Right.
they came up with the term ADDHD or ADD, and started them pumping them full of drugs that then shut down their ability, their intuitive and God-given, blueprints.
Right. Maybe a lot of those ADD slash ADD people, quote unquote, are actually not ADD. Maybe some of them are maybe misdiagnosed, and they just have maybe a high curiosity for life, let's say.
Exactly. And a lot of them, I know my oldest daughter was one of the original indigos. She was born in 79, and she came out just, she was talking like you and I are about
Mm-hmm.
6 months old.
Wow.
She, yeah. I
Yeah.
was pushing her in the cart. She could hardly sit up, but she was in the cart at the grocery store. And I said, so Ashley, Amy, what do you want for dinner tonight? I think I'd like escargot and it was something like eggplant or something like that. These things I had never, ever fixed for her, much less they just came out. So these, in the late 70s, early 80s, by the time in the mid 80s, children were being born, thus the term indigo, and we could go into why that term was coined or whatever. But remembering, and now with this third generation from them, these kids are coming in even remembering past lives,
Right.
even remembering their past lives. So it's a whole new dynamic. Yeah.
So would you say that some people, basically people come in at a different level of awareness of various things, and spiritually, psychically, and otherwise. So everybody's like unique in a way with a set of circumstances they bring in. But you're saying that now there's a lot more kids that are coming with an awareness that there's something more already at an early age.
They are coming in droves now. You can see them um, in their eyes. They look like old souls they look like little old people sometimes instead of
Okay.
children. And I can see one across the parking lot. And
Yeah.
and they
I knew a girl. I'm not gonna say name, but we call her. I used to tease her. I call her grandma, and she was like 19 years old. Yeah, she was like taking care of everybody and stuff. Maybe to a fault, I don't know, but she was yeah.
Well, I had that conversation with my youngest daughter when she was about 8 or 9. we were in the car one day and she was expanding on her wisdom also. And I said, and this was before I knew about past lives or whatever, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, honey, I'm the mommy this time, and you're the daughter this time. You do not have to take care of me. So, and we're in a higher frequency, Matt, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
particularly since the harmonic conversions. It's just, gone crazy. So the children that are have been born, especially after 2000, and then particularly after 2012, they're walking in and being born in a much higher level vibration on the planet than my generation was.
Right. Would that depend on the parents and the country they're born?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Because society, growing up in the conservative South here in the US, um, I didn't know about all this stuff.
right.
Yeah.
So you were born in what state?
New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Santa Fe and all that, like very fancy.
Well, I was born in Albuquerque, and that's
Okay.
before it turned so shishi. Yeah, it was
What
very
does that
rugged
mean?
back.
What does that mean, shishi?
Shishi is high maintenance, high.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Uh, yeah,
Yeah.
but definitely I did. But I was actually raised in New Mexico until I got out of school, and it was down the oil fields of New
Right.
Mexico. So it's not as beautiful and lovely and spiritually evolved as Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Taos.
Right. Well, it is what it is. So so what happened then in 1987? Did you have somebody help you get out of your depression or spiritual crisis or awakening, whatever you?
Uh, no, not for several years. I had to go through several more years of pure hell. It went from bad to worse. Personally, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not going to go into all the details, but it got much worse. And but as I look back now, Matt, even after losing everything, losing absolutely everything, um, there was a reason. My children actually ended up moving to California to live with their dad during that
Mm-hmm.
time. And as I look back now, years after, if I had been the primary child raiser at the time, I wouldn't have started doing the work that I did. And I was on the cutting edge. I was one of the only um, Feng Shui masters in the United States. Um, when all this started, there was only one book. I don't know. There were no books out in English at the time that I started. So that's is, and that's where so many people, their worlds have to totally unravel and go to hell and completely leave us on our knees.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always a reason. It will always come out in the long run if it doesn't kill us first. you know, if we can walk through it and trust it. I couldn't trust it. I fought it, but I didn't
Right.
know what I didn't know.
But were you like diagnosed with depression, or was it something else?
Oh, it was depression. Yeah.
Okay. But you're
And so,
saying that depression, then it's sometimes a vehicle to, um, well, sometimes can be like you're going a wrong path in life, but sometimes it can be actually before you raising consciousness, as it were.
yes,
Okay.
that's often the case.
But
Often.
so were you psychic before then, before the awakening or after?
I didn't know even what it was. I mean, I was raised not knowing any of these things, not even being I didn't even understand intuition really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm sure I was, because we all are, but especially in my generation and in my culture that I was raised in, um, this was just not part of the educational system. And many times, all over the world, even today, these children are, who have sight and are seeing ghosts or seeing angels or seeing auras around people. Their parents will say, "Oh, you're just crazy. There's
Right.
nothing over there," and so it by about 6 o'clock. I mean, 6 o'clock. 6 years old or so, they begin to shut it down. Yeah,
Right. That's interesting because that's what my first guest said that around the age of 7, she like shut it down
yeah.
because her mother was freaked out by something and she just shut it down. So, do you see auras and stuff like that? Do you see more than auras? Because you mentioned that you can. Because some people are like sensory and some people are more like visual. I don't know how that's called as far as psychic abilities, but
I don't have sight. Occasionally, I will feel colors, and if I'm doing a reading or something, I will be given a color around them or what they're what they're penetrating. But with my own eyes, I do not see them yet.
okay. So I've heard a lot about psychics over the years, and what do you think about the? Because some of them are, I would say, obviously not gifted in that department, and are just using it to probably to, you know, to benefit financially. So how would you tell? Because somebody could. I don't know. The best example that I can give is Darren Brown. I don't know if you know. It's a famous British what is he, like a magician, kind of showman, card tricks and all that. Started with card tricks and then hypnosis and all that, and he was able to I think he had a show when he went to Sedona, and he managed to convince people that he's a faith healer, and then but then he revealed that actually he is not.
Right.
And and he also convinced some people that he saw aliens, and then he was very convincing and all that, but obviously he not faked it, but he was pretending. He was very convincingly pretending. So how would you discern if it's a genuine thing, somebody has a genuine gift, or if it's something that's used to manipulate money out of people?
That's very common. It's very common. Um, it's beginning now, Matt, now that so many of us are being called to do remote readings and things like that. It's
Okay, can you
easier.
clarify the remote readings because people don't probably don't know what it is?
Psychic readings, okay, or medium, acting as a medium who contacts um, people who passed on to the other
Right.
side.
Okay.
Um, because it's easier, I think, to fake somebody out if you're sitting right in front of them.
Can you?
But
I'm sorry, I'm picking up the anytime you touch a table or something, I'm picking up on the microphone. To
oh,
yeah,
okay, got
but
it. Um, like the article that you read about
yeah.
me, um, that was done on the telephone, and that was done almost 20. It was 18 years ago, and the author of that will. There was no way we'd never even met, and I was just picking
Yeah.
up things, and so then you know that somebody's the real deal. Um,
Oh, so you're saying that through the phone, there's not much chance of manipulation.
Not as much,
Okay, that makes
not as
sense.
much. And this is where we are all, I think, headed into these higher levels of frequency and awareness and consciousness, Matt, is because we've got to learn, and we're seeing it right now, these last 6 months. We have to learn discernment. We have to bring in our own consciousness and begin to understand and pick up what's true and what's not true. Because we're right in the middle of a cesspool right now. What's true? What's not true? And for those of us who have very strong discernment, we had no idea it was going to be this difficult, given the situation we're in right now.
Oh yeah, seems like the stakes are getting higher and higher.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to clarify. You mentioned ETs earlier, and we didn't expand on that. So can you go? I'm curious about that phenomena and guides and all that. So can you go a little bit into that?
My awareness is different than most. Okay. We have a group of metaphysical, spiritual people that it's all about angels and all about guides and all about these beautiful beings of higher consciousness that I totally agree with.
Right.
I don't necessarily, and this is me, okay, and my experiences with these higher beings is that they don't necessarily radiate these have wings with feathers on them, okay,
Okay.
and fly through the sky. I think they can be levels of consciousness that if we have sight and we can see them, that they emanate their energy fields in light that we may perceive as winged creatures, or some people, it's a complicated thing, okay, to get through in this deal. But ETs,
Okay.
one of the things that I began to understand before even my awakening, for some reason, I remembered that I am Pleiadian from the Seven Sisters star system, the Pleiades.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about star seeds now, those who carry in past lives from other galaxies, from other star systems, et cetera, et
Right.
cetera.
Right.
Now it's becoming very common. But how I knew I was Pleiadian even before I had awakened is still a mystery to me.
You know, I once read this Michael Newton book about he was doing past life regression and all that, and he said that some people were on a planet that had no sense of humor. They were people, but they had no sense of humor, and he found it so difficult. I was like, wow, imagine that.
Yeah.
And imagine if somebody had a sense of humor, then they'd probably be executed. Like, you can't say that.
Well,
So,
we saw that on Star Trek and stuff like that.
oh
So those
yeah.
other
See, I
people,
was never into that. Maybe I need to watch some Star Trek. Oh yeah, I remember there was a robot that tried jokes, and the human being was like, don't try that again. He had a lot more to learn. So
yeah.
ETs are basically extraterrestrial. As basically what you're saying is that it's an energy field that we don't see, and it's not from here. Is that basically the definition?
ETs or galactic beings are just from other star systems or other planets or even other galaxies. And we cannot conceive, Matt, as humans, anything that isn't already there. And
Right.
we've been watching Star Trek, we've been watching sci-fi, we've been watching Star Wars for years. And when you begin to get into this work, these beautiful authors are just tapping into other levels of consciousness and bringing through the information directly from the source.
Yeah. I'm into spiritual stuff, but I'm also like, my basic foundation is religious and Christian, but I'm kind of glad I've never seen something, because I think it'd freak me out. Like, I'd be like, whoa. Unless I'd seen an angel, then I'd probably be like, yeah, this is
And that's
nice.
one reason that's where we as humans will bring in, and our consciousness will alter perhaps exactly what is being shown to us so that we can deal with it in a form that is pleasing and understandable to us. Does
Right.
that
So
make sense?
yeah, so you don't think that somebody will see something they're not ready for?
No. I mean, some people do.
Oh,
Yeah.
but like I've had a friend, he was schizophrenic for a while, and he saw things and heard things that he didn't want to, and that's wow, that's so scary to me. I would not want to be in that position. But that
Right.
seems like it's connected to the brain. If there's some kind of deficiency or something, and then it opens up the door to the astral plane in a way that's not healthy. That you don't have any boundaries.
You have to learn, like the shamans do, how to walk between those worlds.
Right. Is that
And
what you
that,
do? Is that can you shut it off your gift, or can you? Is it just always there?
like my empathic abilities
Yes.
are
So
that
a
I feel
psychic.
everything. I, you know, do you know what sun flares are?
Sun flares, like
Eruptions that come off the sun.
yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
I can, no, you don't. But anyway, for the Schumann resonance, I'll
Right.
teach you things. And these are alterations in our magnetics. They are alterations or explosions that come off the sun
Sure.
and then go through our atmosphere and hit the planet. And now for 30 years, and this, it's kind of like the full moon concept.
Right.
You know, so many, all the hospitals, all the law enforcement, you know, everybody knows during a full moon, a lot of people can go cray-cray, can go crazy.
Hmm.
Okay. And these other anomalies that are happening all around us and magnified in the last several years can emotionally and physically really make a disturbance in our physical and emotional beings. And they don't understand what is causing that unless they know about these anomalies.
So you're saying that the sun, like the sun flares, can influence human behavior in a way because it's
Absolutely.
can like a cell phone, can the magnetic things
It's all magnetic.
influence? Because like
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people, especially there was a big issue here in Slovenia that they blocked people from building 5G networks because I guess it's a different frequency and it's more uh, powerful. So, do you think that that affects human beings?
All of this affects human beings. How our capacity to overcome them or not be able to overcome them is the question. Some people are not as sensitive to these alterations in our environment as
Mm,
others. I can literally walk over ground, and I had an experience years ago. I was in in a forest north of Seattle here in the States, and I was walking through this forest, and I became very aware that there had been a battle and women and children had been raped and murdered and were buried underneath my feet, Native American, from way back.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not the only one that goes through these things. Okay. And all of a sudden I hit the ground. Sorry. I hit the ground screaming at the top of my lungs. I was on my knees just in agony. I knew that my daughter in this lifetime was in a previous lifetime had been raped and murdered and was underneath my feet at that time.
Wow.
I can't make this stuff up, and nor would I want to.
So your daughter in a previous lifetime was buried,
Underneath my feet.
and that's the same daughter that you have in this lifetime.
Yes.
Is that common that people have the same that family recycles and all that?
That's very common. Yeah.
Because I had back in the day when I was dabbling with past life regression, I had regressed a friend, and he's from New York, and he had a past lifetime that he was in China, and he had the same sister in China, the same exact sister.
Yeah. And what was funny, this is the same daughter that I told you earlier that I said, okay, honey, you're the daughter this time. I'm the mommy this time. You don't have to do it. And that came through again years later when I was in that forest that we'd been together before.
So you can change roles. You can be sometimes this, that, and so yeah, that kind of freaks me out because like that could be then that you could have a sister that you were married to in a previous lifetime, and that's I don't know, just that just
when
freaks
you
me
get
out.
into past life, yeah, I actually do past life regression hypnosis,
Oh
and that
yeah.
happens a lot.
So okay.
Or marry somebody, like I would marry somebody this time that had been my wife in a previous lifetime, or a sister or something. Yeah.
Right. So you mentioned that you do also past life regression. So what does Shari Clemens nowadays do? You have past life regression, you have Feng Shui, and you have psychic services, I guess, as
I'm
well.
an energy healer.
Energy healer. Okay. So you do four
Sound
things.
therapy.
What is that?
Whole sound therapy.
Sound therapy. Okay.
Color therapy. Once you tap into these energies, and I know a previous conversation you had with another energy healer, science now calls it the field that
Mm-hmm.
holds everything together. Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and all the scientists are talking about the field now. Okay. Once you tap into the all of this starts coming in, becomes understandable.
Okay. What is your opinion on the extension of mankind from 1987 to now? Do you think we are going up, or do you think we are going down?
There's no question we're going up.
Okay,
We're
that's
going
good.
up because we wouldn't be in the chaos right now if we were going down. We're
Oh,
shining
right.
we're
So it's
shining light literally on horrible things that have been happening for sometimes thousands of years. And they're not mainstream news yet, but they're definitely becoming, thanks to the pandemic, more people are realizing just how bad this world has been.
you're talking about the pedophilia rings and all that. Oh, okay. We're not gonna talk about that. We're just mentioning.
It's fair to say you took me there. It's more than just that, though. It's
Right,
more.
right. Okay.
We're not going to go there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'm very wary of going into topics that I'm speculating and I don't know much about, and I don't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to go into that. So
We'll just stay with the woo-woos and the ETs. How's that?
okay. What is your opinion though of the religious experience as well? Because I have much respect for the religious. You know, I had was raised Catholic, but then somebody convinced me that, rightly so, I think that you know you didn't choose your baptism because you know in Catholic tradition you don't choose your baptism, and then I had a baptism in the Scottish Sea, which is brutal, especially in winter, and but that was a I thought was very spiritual experience. It felt kind of you know a cleansing in a way, and actually that was recommended also by a healer that I know that that would be good for me to get baptized, and I'm glad I did. Um, but I try not to tell my you know my grandparents or anything like that because it's not it's not like I changed teams. It's just that I appreciate both teams. Let's say, you know what I mean. So,
Yeah.
what is your experience? Does sometimes people come to you and then they become religious, or is that more common that people come to you and then they leave their religion? Let's say.
I don't know that, I think they will expand their
Right.
religion. They don't have to leave it or stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
My own awakening from Christianity into my spirituality was when it actually happened, and it happened in a flash. I left traditional mainstream Southern congregations, and I went into a more spiritual, to unity and Church of Religious Science and things like that. And when my friends and family said, "What are you doing? This isn't about Jesus," and I said, "No, it is. It is." I now understand all the questions I had as a child being raised in these other religions now make sense. Now they have answered questions I've had since a child. So that was me, and I'm not here as a life coach or healer or whatever to change anybody's ideas. But what I have been called, what I have been called to do in my work is give information for them to ponder and look at as
Mm-hmm.
they feel ready. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To expand their awareness. They may think it's all bunk, you know. This is common. But
Right.
then I get calls 10 years later and say, "Oh, now I understand what you were telling me." Yeah.
Yeah. People are ready when people are ready. I think, because a lot of times I will have I've heard information, but if you don't really apply on or spiritual principles or whatever, then it's in a way it's no use to me unless I actually try to become that. It's not useful, you know.
And sometimes it takes a while. We're
Yeah.
all evolving. I am I'm going through stuff now again that's challenging me to move to the next level. And we're forever changing. Yeah.
Only the mystics have arrived at a point where where they are kind of satisfied. I Not satisfied, but they have like a flower. They're fully grown, and we are all in between, right? In various
Yep.
stages.
Yep. And I think those are special people that, again, incarnate on the planet with wisdom that the rest of us maybe have not gone through in previous lifetimes or whatever. Um,
Right.
they just come into a connection.
What is so would you say that everybody that's born here, even people that are born into horrible circumstances like blind, deaf, or without in a situation where there's war, like born in Syria nowadays or something like that, what do you is that a free choice, or is that just a fluke?
If you talk to most spiritual people,
Hmm.
it's a choice that our soul makes before being incarnated. It's and I will say through the spiritual community, that's a strong belief system. And you and I talked about reincarnating over and over and over in the same with the same family members often.
Right.
And what we will supposedly, and I'll say supposedly, do before we incarnate is we have meetings with this group of individual souls, and we decide, okay, are you going to be the mom or am I going to be the mom? Are you going to be um, crazy druggy, or are you going to um, walk on water? And oftentimes I know through my own experience in my family, my greatest teachers, both not just in my family, but in my friendships, have been the worst relationships I've had. They pushed me
Yeah.
to overcome judgment and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Like today I was accused of putting because there's various types of rubbish bins here, and I put something in the wrong one, and I thought I didn't, and I didn't say, but I was so mad for like a good half an hour after. And this is like family. You get so mad about small things that if somebody else said it to you, you wouldn't. It wouldn't be such a big deal. Maybe is it the history that makes it with the person that makes it so more like explosive and so much prone to resentment?
I don't. What if you read the Essenes work, the mystics school of the Essenes, and Greg Braden's a wonderful scholar on the Essenes. Do you know who Greg Braden is?
Vaguely.
Okay, he's a scientist, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay. One of their number one understandings is the people that come into our lives and tweak us the most, that push our buttons the
Right.
most, are the very things that they are mirroring that we do, or that we have judgment about.
Or that we have done maybe in a past life
Or
or
it's a
this
deep
life.
unconscious personality trait that we hold within ourselves, and they are the beautiful mirror to make us understand that that is part of us that we don't like about ourselves, and we may not even be conscious of it.
Yeah, like Carl Jung that said that anything that disturbs us about other people is something that indicates about ourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if not, because Greg, for years and years and years, have talked, because I've followed his work for many, many, many years, decades. He went through personal traumas and dramas with people who were out of integrity with him personally. And he went to a Native American friend because he kept saying, what is it that I'm supposed to see about myself that's out of integrity? That isn't me. I've tried and I've worked through this. I've tried looking and seeing where I'm out of integrity. He said, I don't see it. He said, and the Native American there in New Mexico said, it's not necessarily always a reflection of you personally, but it's that which you judge. And I'm real bad about that.
Judgment.
The judgment. I'm a Virgo. I want everything just like this. Yeah. So and my daughter called me on this when she was a little girl. She said, Mom, give them a break. So that tweak that you experienced at the trash can, okay,
Yeah.
was just something that you judged. And you have the ability to shift it and get over it or whatever.
Judge a small mistake by others as making it a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah.
True serum time, right?
Yeah. But by the way, I knew also a girl that was really into spiritual stuff. She was a Virgo as well. And I remember, oh man, she had a great person, but she had great rants about Britain. And she's Scottish. And she had great rants about the state of the country and where it's going. And she had, it was amazing. It really was. So, okay, we haven't touched about Feng Shui that you do as well. So can you
Okay.
explain a little bit about your involvement with Feng Shui?
The way I found out about Feng Shui before it really became understood here in the United States, and if I talked to probably, 100 people on the street, they won't know what it is.
Right.
Okay. It's the way our environment and our planet and our surroundings has an impact on us is basically the easiest way to explain that. And I had gone from being a fashion designer into architecture. And then when I found out about Feng Shui, I realized that all of my designing architecturally and interiors and everything like that was right there in the Feng Shui principles. Being a Virgo didn't hurt either. No clutter, no dirty underwear, hanging on the door or anything like that. So I am very aware I was bringing through past life information in my architectural and design work that just went right into that.
Mm-hmm.
So when I began to go into Feng Shui, and I was led immediately into teaching it, and I go, okay, God, I can't teach this. I don't know everything there is to know about it. But I just kept being asked and asked. Okay. I said, just work through me and tell me what it is I need to know and tell these people.
So is Feng Shui something that it's like, is it basically like the energy flow of the space or the building, so it's a positive one? So it's a net positive in a way? Trying to look at it from my rational mind.
It can also be very negative.
Okay.
I think it was in the article, but I'll tell your audience. I was designing a ranch in Texas many years ago, back in the 90s, and we were getting into the interiors with my client there in Texas. And we went to this store, and they knew that she had a big budget. So they said, well, we just brought these new doors in, and I think you'll like these doors. And I went back in with my client into their storeroom. And I started going, and I said, get me out of here, get me out of here. And they took me out, and they said, what is going on? I said, I don't know where those doors came from, but it's awful. It's awful. And they sat there and they said, how can you know? And I said, I know. And they said, I said, where did you get them? They said, we brought them up from a ranch in Mexico that they used to do lynchings around the property. Everything, because everything is energy, Matt, it absorbs the environment. So if we, and when you get into Dr. Matsumoto's work with water, the messages from water, we all affect things affect us, and we affect others. And that's where we are right now in our awareness of millions of us on the planet, that however we're vibrating, whatever we're putting out is affecting the people around us. And on the other side of it's the butterfly effect that science now knows about. So I can talk to somebody in Israel from where I am in California. And if I tap into their land, I may pick up on toxic land under their feet or toxic water table. There is no time and space. And I'm tapping into the field that ultimately is giving me information over here.
Right. You mean toxic as in...
I have an internet.
Right. You mean toxic as in there's something poisonous underneath their feet, like poisonous as in biological, or can be emotional. Is that what you mean?
It could be either one.
Okay.
It can be either one. I picked up years ago there in Midland, this was back in the early 2000s. I was working with another group of spiritual, and they were kind of testing me out to see what I could do and what I couldn't do. Obviously. And I did I picked up on this one woman's home, and I picked up on a oil field. We're talking about Midland, which is all oil fields out there, pump jacks and things like that. And I said, did you have a pump jack? I'm picking up 3 pump jacks actually right behind your house. And she said, actually, yes, I did. I said, those have been seeping oil into actually the water table that you've got your well connected to.
Oh,
I told her where I told her the part of town it was probably in. I'd never met this woman before. Come
right.
to find out years later, I said, this covers a big area down there. Aaron Brockovich, who you've probably heard about, that Julia Roberts played. Anyway,
I know the movie. Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
okay.
I haven't seen it.
With the
I'll watch it.
toxic land. Well,
Okay.
when they found out these oil wells had actually been seeping into the water tables that I had predicted 6 or 8 years before, they brought
Wow.
in Aaron Brockovich because of the situation. That's feng shui at its max.
But sounds like you are using is it feng shui to use psychic abilities to predict? Because I thought feng shui meant the aesthetic kind of energy flow of just a space, but you're picking up something more.
Feng shui was actually the energies of the planet.
Okay. Okay.
That's why gypsies would move all over the place, because there is a phenomenon on our planet. You've probably heard of ley lines, where all the major cathedrals and the Egyptian pyramids and things are on major lines of energy that are very high energy and
Okay. Okay.
positive. The opposite of that is geopathic stress, which there are lines all over the world which can vibrate and cause illness. Okay?
Right. So it's best not to look.
Drive you crazy. Yeah. And they're shifting all the time.
They are. Oh my gosh. Then it's even harder to predict.
But you can douse it or you can feel it like I do. Okay? But this is what feng shui was actually about and started thousands of years ago, before we had all this
Right.
materialism. Okay?
So it's not about where you put the table or where you put the chair or whatnot or the bed. It's about something
It,
else.
it's beyond just aesthetics.
Right, right, right. Well, what do you
If
think
you put
about, okay, aesthetically speaking, because there's a big difference, because I have a friend that's an architect and he's saying that he doesn't like the modern buildings because a lot of it is about efficiency. They're just like straight, they're very boring looking, but it's cheaply made, it's efficient, but it doesn't have the ambience, the energy, all that. It doesn't look that good. Like a classic example would be in France, the Louvre, which has the amazing building, and then in the middle it has a very efficient pyramid, which is a very very out of place thing to place there. So is that something Feng Shui also teaches, to be more mindful of where you put something in an environment? Would a Feng Shui practitioner put something like the Louvre, put the pyramid there?
we're not going down that
Okay.
road. That's something, read the Dan Brown books, okay? It goes beyond, but it is manipulating energy.
Okay.
Ultimately, they knew exactly what they were doing when they built that pyramid. And we're not going to go down that road either, okay?
Okay.
But read a little Dan Brown, because he's done his research and he knows about that. But yes, it's and stone circles and things like that. It's all about collecting energy. It's all about connecting to the stars. We're right now in the Lion's Gate, if you know about that, the connection.
No.
Tomorrow is the Lion's Gate, August or 8/8, okay?
Okay.
And it's when the sun is in direct alignment with Sirius, okay? And that'll give you and your audience something else to go fish on. So, or Google up. These alignments also create energies,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and portals that we can utilize for higher consciousness or shape shifting or whatever we want to do, okay.
Okay, you
So,
mentioned shape shifting. Okay, well, we'll go into that later.
but feng shui is our direct connection, because we have over many hundreds of years been disconnected, particularly the last excuse me, 100 years, from the earth. Before that, everybody was, tilling land and walking on the earth. I'll tell you about my cough in a minute.
Oh, something's coming up. Okay, no, tell the audience because now it's coming up. So, well,
Okay. Did
yeah,
I tell you about the cough before?
you told me the first time you spoke. So,
Okay. For your audience that has watched The Green Mile, the movie with Tom Hanks,
mm,
they may remember the character, the big prisoner, John Coffey. And John would take in people's bad juju or illnesses or whatever, and he would,
love that character. It was one of the best. Him and Tom Hanks just amazing.
but he would cough them out. And when I talk or speak or think about something negative, which we're talking about, negative
Oh, I
earth
see.
energies, then I don't want to take that on in my body. And when I started doing my work after I awakened, I encountered this cough. And come to find out, I'm not the only healer or psychic that does that.
That's I remember today I had when I was resenting and all that, I had a period of about a few minutes where I was coughing. I don't know if that's related or
Next time you
interesting.
do it, become aware of what you're thinking about or
Yeah.
discussing, and see if that has something to do about it. Could have just to do with your breath or whatever, but just be aware of what's happening around you.
Okay. Um, okay, shape shifting. Now that you mentioned that, that's a term I've only seen in obscure videos on YouTube where people are like, I remember one time that somebody, there was a video of a security guard at this event, and but the downside of this video was that it was very low resolution, and this person had to zoom in, and it kind of looked like it was changing, but I think it's because of the low resolution, because he had to really zoom in to see this security guard or whatever it was. So explain exactly, like, is this actually a thing and what actually happens?
This is probably not. This is not on my high list
Okay,
um,
that's fair.
of education, but yes, it does happen. The shamans do it. Okay, but it's not my point of expertise. Does that
Right.
work?
Okay. Cool. So with psychic phenomena, because I don't know if you're aware of Rupert Sheldrake, but he does experiments where you name four people that are you the closest with, and at random they call you on a phone that doesn't have a caller ID, and before you pick up, you're supposed to select who do you think is calling, and
Mhm.
statistically you get 25%, but he's done tens of thousands of experiments and he's gotten 45%. So that's a significant statistical deviation. So most people have this experience of knowing who's calling before that person even calls, or sometimes even a few moments before they call, you know.
Right.
um, so is it is intuition something that most people can enhance and build on? Is it something that we're just resisting because of our doubt?
It's our programming. We all have it. Um, remember when we had, I don't remember, 2008 or whatever, the tsunami that went through Indonesia and killed 250,000 people?
uh
Anyway,
2004. Yeah.
Is it that far back?
Yeah.
None of the animals were killed. They
Oh,
were already at the top of the hill. God would not have given the animals this ability and not given us. But we
okay.
have been deliberately programmed out of that innate, and it literally is called innate, these innate abilities that all humans have. It was difficult. One of the things when Will, the author of my that article that you read,
Mm-hmm.
uh, called me the feng shui psychic, before he printed it, I freaked out. I didn't, because in my culture, the word psychic is of the devil.
Right.
I say, use intuitive, don't use psychic. And he said, no, that's going to sell more, more papers.
True.
You know? And I've now coined that because we've got to get over the programming that these intuitive hits that we get from God source. It's telling us run or go this way, or don't do business with that person, or we have been programmed not to listen to that inner voice of ours that's so much more powerful and right on than our brain is.
Right. But you know, in my life, there, because I lived in hostels for 4 years, there's been cases where I've sometimes I judge a person and then I'll change my mind after. I'd be like, but this is usually when about the time they leave or just after they leave. I'd be like, oh, actually, maybe I was wrong about this person, or maybe you know, maybe my initial judgment, and then because then I stick to it, you know. But then I was like, maybe my initial thing was not exactly right, and that's happened to me more than once, and so much so that I was beginning to question uh, my initial reaction to people, you know.
It's a learning process for us. We
Mm-hmm.
have it as children, okay? But again, it's 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 taken out of us or
Right.
unprogrammed out of us. And there's, except for say the Aborigines or the Native Americans or some of the other indigenous cultures that can feel the planet like I do. I mean, I'm picking up right now 0.3 earthquakes that are, you know, hundreds of miles from here. There's no reason I should, but I can even feel them or become aware that it's going to happen before it happens. We all have that ability, but we're so into our phones. We're
Yeah.
so into the computer, the TVs, you know, rock music, football, you know, NBA, you know, we are being distracted from the voices and the, the music that in our hearts that we need to be listening to, rather than the BS that we've gotten plugged into.
Right. So you recommend basically to get into touch with our intuition, to have a moment or at least maybe half an hour where you're completely silent for a day. Not for that time, and then just be without technology and just be quiet with our mind.
I haven't had a television in my life for over 30 years.
Really? Okay. Well, I don't have a TV. I just I use a lot of YouTube though. I
Yeah.
just yeah.
It's not one drug, it's another. But
Yes.
it's one of the other things is to become aware of, even if you're not, if you can't sit and be quiet. And there's a lot of people, more people on the planet can't sit and be quiet than those of us who can. Or not be in a relationship. One of the greatest gifts in the world as a young adult or older is to not have a romantic partner for a couple of 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Well, hold on. Well, because I've heard some people say the most famous one I've heard there was what's his name? James Corden had Kanye West on his show, and Kanye West said that 1 year of married life is like many years of normal life, because so many. I guess it's because so many issues come up that it's. But I think even without marriage, even if you're with somebody, chances are there's going to be a lot of stuff that come up. But
It's a
then,
distraction. It's another distraction.
is it?
Yes. And that's where so many religious groups, be it be monks or nuns or priests or whatever, many of us who go on even a spiritual path in the United States or wherever end up being alone, because it takes us away oftentimes from where we need to be within our own journey. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's why I know my daughters were led to go live with their dad for an extended period of time. It was because I needed to get my own stuff together. And if I had been raising them, I wouldn't have been able to help the thousands of people I have been able to help since that happened.
Okay, I completely
Does that
understand.
resonate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess my point was that there's stuff that you learn in a relationship that is hard to learn without it, like tolerance and stuff. But it's more like stuff that can drive you off the wall more than by yourself. So it seems more intense, you know?
Like the trash can scene?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just a minor thing, but it completely threw me off the wall for half an hour. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really crazy.
I'm glad it wasn't a girlfriend.
I mean, that stuff will come later, and it's yeah. So okay, so you do past life regression as well. Are you um do you use like regular hypnosis, like you use a sort of a text, and then for people that don't know, it's like hypnosis uses basically a text and then lets people um kind of subdue their conscious mind so they can get access to the unconscious. And is that how you do your past life thing?
That's the way I was originally taught and the way I got into it to begin with. And then it can expand to where you're not reading a script or whatever, but you're still working to aid your client into reaching another level of consciousness, that they're not totally in the third dimension and worried about the milkman coming in, or
Right.
the Amazon delivery coming today, you know? Yeah.
How
So
can people?
that
Okay.
is another way. I've had one colleague. She sees past lives. She describes it like having TV screens in her third eye that come across, and she picks up different screens about different past lives that she can pick up on your past lives. You have to be kind of careful about that, though. Some are
Yeah.
excellent. They're excellent healers, but like you said earlier, some of them can be just, charlatans.
Yeah. And I am kind of uh, I find it interesting that if you meet somebody that has disability, that they say something about because I'll tell you a story. I had a teacher who was very adamant. What's her name? Georgina Cannon. She was my hypnosis teacher, and she was very adamant that she met some psychic, and the psychic told her, I'm seeing somebody over your left shoulder, and Georgina was like, I didn't ask you to do that. She has a very firm boundary. She's like, boom.
Yeah.
So do you find that sometimes people that get disabilities, sometimes maybe they're excited and they're like, oh, I'm seeing your aura, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this person is bad, this is this, you're announcing everything to the world. Does that happen?
It's really common nowadays.
Yeah.
Really common because people are waking up very quickly and they get overzealous
Right.
and they want to save the world and they want to go out and one show everybody what they can do. And so many people now are waking up and next week they're charging $200 or $300 an hour and really don't know what they're doing. Okay.
Mm.
But like you said, they will be they're overzealous and they want to prove themselves and save the world with this knowledge. So this is very common right now, especially with the newbies that are just now awakening. And
Yeah.
I can understand it. They're excited, you know, and they know that they can help people, but they need to work with it a while to figure out what they're doing because they're spewing and hurting a lot of people and saying things that they haven't practiced yet.
Right.
And I know people who jump who get their Reiki masters on YouTube for free and then they think they can do all this stuff and they get in over their heads.
What do you mean they get Reiki masters on online for free?
Well, there are people now that are tuning people for Reiki over a YouTube 2-minute YouTube thing. And so some people are saying, okay, now I'm a Reiki master, and they don't have a clue what they're doing.
Okay. So they're not
And
properly trained,
some of them
basically.
don't even know what energy is. You know, and you can't do Reiki without feeling energy. You just can't do it. And
I thought
it's scary.
I thought there was like an official process to become a Reiki teacher, that you have to go to somebody that's
There is.
there is a Reiki master, let's say, and then through that you become level 2. I guess that's when you become teacher.
There's, because I am a Reiki master and
Okay.
have been for 30 years, okay? Can we do it long distance? Yes, but your teacher, if they're teaching you long distance, needs to be able to feel like if I was teaching you today and had
Mhm.
you working on someone,
Right.
I I could feel exactly when you touch a certain zone on that person's body. Okay? Because if you're scanning a client, a person that you're working on as you're
Mm-hmm.
learning, I can tell you long distance between here and Slovenia when you're gonna. I can do that, and that way I could teach you. But to just not even see a person and tell them they're now a Reiki master, I personally think it's out of integrity.
Right.
But
But
that's me. But some people don't have that level of concern or whatever.
yeah, that's always um tough thing when there's people that want to make money, and that takes precedence over the quality of the teaching, and they're probably not a good Reiki master to begin with if they're lacking integrity. You know what I mean?
Don't take me down that road because it's
Okay.
very sensitive to me.
We're
And
judging.
my students and my clients know that pushes a lot of buttons for me. So yeah,
Okay.
I don't want to take me down that road
We're
either.
already judging a whole gamut of people and saying this is all bad.
Yeah, and I don't want to. You know,
Okay. Okay.
that's yeah. I don't want to go there.
Just one last thing, if you want to go down this road, or if not, that's totally fine. So,
Okay.
the recent changes, starting in, we're just gonna briefly touch on this in 2016 with the Brexit vote, and then the Trump election seemed kind of very odd. And I didn't think neither of those. Well, I did think one of those was gonna happen, but the Brexit I didn't think was gonna happen, and I was surprised. Is that indicative of a change starting to, like, because like you said, because the level of consciousness is getting higher, and in order for stuff to get resolved. There's more things that need to be brought to light, and this is the situation that is ideal for that. Is that what happened, basically?
Without going into politics, that's exactly what happened.
Okay.
And that's why it's like cleaning out a closet.
Right.
We had to go into pull everything ugly and shine a light on it. And we've really only just begun that process now. And we're not even close to it. Yeah. I think you're very, very right on with that, Matt.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's good win on that, because people, unless they know they have me on Facebook, they will not guess my politics. So that's probably good. It's probably better if I leave it at that. Maybe they'll find out later. Where can people get you if they want to get your services?
I'm doing everything remotely now.
Mm-hmm.
I actually started this remotely quite some time ago. They can go to my website. That's Shari, Shari, Celemens, Clemens, energy.com, www.shariclemensenergy.com. They can Google me up under Shari, and Shari's Shari. And I'm getting ready to start a new blog. I've got an old one, but I'm going to start a new one. I think that's going to be real important.
Are you going to
And
start a YouTube?
go to my Facebook page. I've got 2 Facebook pages too.
Are you going to start a YouTube thing as well? Like have a more social media presence? Is this popular nowadays?
I'm being forced to. Yeah.
It's the new age of promoting yourself. But the good thing is I think it's cheaper nowadays than it ever was. So if somebody has any talent in anything, the world is your oyster. Yeah.
I'm over the age of 30, so this doesn't come naturally to me.
I am as well. Actually, I am as well.
Yeah, but you're still in that age group. You're still a tech.
Yeah.
I've handled technology pretty well until the last 3 or 4 years, and then it went, and yeah. So I'm going to have to either pay somebody brilliant. My youngest daughter has been really good about doing my website and stuff, but yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Shari, for being on the show. I really much enjoyed it.
You've been
And
awesome. Thank you, Matt.
thank you. And thank you
We'll
for
talk again soon.
listeners. Take care.
Okay. Have a great day.